Okay, so we welcome you to this next section, and shortly we'll be talking about the agriculture sector. So, in our initial group studies, from the beginning, we had looked at the national income accounting, and we look at the part one and the part two, and we talked a bit about the relevance of the national income accounts and also some of the challenges it faces in terms of being used. And we also went on to look at the external sector, part one and part two, and we looked at how Ghana's international trade takes place or the international transactions, how it's done in more detailed in the part two. In the part one, we had an overview of the balance of payment accounts and looking into its sub-components, that's the capital account and also the current account. And we also threw some light into the financial accounts too as well. So from this point, we got to also see how the external sector could be improved, and also we looked at some challenges it faced. And from that, we went on to look at the industrial sector, and we looked at both the part one and part two, and we had a wide look into Ghana's industrial sector in terms of the subsectors of Ghana's industrial sector. We also looked at some challenges it faces, and we also looked at how to improve the Ghana's industrial sector too as well. So from that, we went on to economic planning, part one and part two, and we threw that into some important themes with regards to economic planning, and we based on Ghana context, and we looked at some policies that were also used by the NDC, that was the Vision 2020, and also by the MPP Division 2012. And we looked at the failures aspect of it, and that's the challenges it faced, and also we looked at other important details too under the economic planning slides. So from that, we are actually on the agriculture sector now, and this is basically um, containing both the part one and part two of the agriculture sector. So this is actually a review session, not a main group study session. So in case you have some questions, you have some contributions, and you have some corrections, okay, just feel free to send those ones to the main page so that we get to interact with these questions, contributions, corrections, and so on and so on. Okay, so we'll just go through shortly to have a review of the discussion we had during our general meetings. Okay, so we can move on now. So basically, this is actually a graph that shows us the performance of the agriculture sector in terms of percentage contribution to GDP. So now here we are making use of real GDP as at 20, as at 1961 to 2013. And here we could see actually that the performance of the agriculture sector had over time declined, and actually the growth rate fluctuates. Yes, it fluctuates over time from 1961 to 2013. You could see that sometimes it has, like it improved, and at sometimes it declined in performance. So here we could say that the agriculture sector contribution to GDP had not been steady or maybe steadily increasing over time. Okay, and it's also not decreasing that much over time. Okay, though you could see that the decrease here is actually much. Okay, but also it also increases at some periods. But currently, with regards to the current information we have, we can see that over a period of time now, it had decreased in terms of contribution to GDP. That's the percentage contribution. So we'll throw more light into that as we move on. So shortly, we'll be taking the slides and so that we can actually have some benchmark to bring up our contributions, corrections, and also questions to us well. So I'll read the slides, then let's see some big details somewhere somehow. So the agriculture sector in the national income. A major player in national income dynamics. This actually means it contributes much to our national income, or let's say what is more familiar to us, GDP. Okay, that shows our performance in terms of national income to us. Okay. And in many developing countries, agriculture is also important in facilitating economic transformation. So we could see that agriculture can be like a foundation of economic growth in many developing countries. Okay, because when you trace into the earlier roots of developing countries, even the developed countries too as well. You could see how important agriculture played, played, let's say, a more important aspect, okay, for the economic transformation of those economies. You get it? So previously, maybe the beginning has agrarian economies, and as they increased, they diversified into um, changed or they were transformed, okay, into like more diversified economies like the service sector, and also let's say like diversified service sector, and also the industrial sector as well. So let's look at a brief note on the agricultural sector in Ghana. We could see that as at the late 1970s, agriculture was regarded as one of the important activities that could alleviate poverty in developing countries and represented the channels by which resources for modernization in these countries could be achieved. So now basically here we see two very much important things that as at the late 1970s or in the late 1970s, agriculture was seen as one of the most important ways to reduce poverty. Now, this throws light on the fact that during this period, agriculture actually generated a lot of employment opportunities for people. So, yeah, people were able to work and also have good standard of living. And this was actually a good, let's say, way, okay, to reduce poverty, okay. And also, we could see that through agriculture, the basic resources that were needed for the proper functioning and like let's say the improvement of other sectors of the economy were, let's say, like generated, okay. Yeah, so it was through agriculture that we could get some of the basic resources that would be used by the industrial sector, and those who these resources would in turn be used by the service sector, and all these sectors functioning well, okay, that's linked up functioning well would lead to economic development. So, but shortly, let's look at what happened to us. Well, it says, but critical to this process is the need to raise agriculture productivity, the absence of which meant it was impossible for savings to be accumulated for the necessary structural transformation that is so badly now. So our target also during this period, okay, was to raise agricultural productivity. Now, raising agricultural productivity could be like to improve upon, like to increase our productivity in the agricultural sector. And also, this would actually maximize our benefits from it in terms of the national income. Okay. And now, through this, we could have some national savings that could help us invest much into other sectors of the economy, like the service sector and the industrial sector, to transform our economy. You get it? But things didn't work that much really. So there were some challenges the agriculture sector faced, and our productivity was not much maximized as the target was. Okay, so that has also led to some declines. Okay, in the performance of the agriculture sector in terms of contribution to GDP. So shortly, I would like us to look at a video to show us a bit on structural transformation. So you get to just have an overview of what structural transformation entails.
Structural transformation. Transformation is the process of creating diverse and vibrant economies, jobs and decent employment, governments raising the revenue to produce opportunities which citizens can harness. While African economies are growing at a rapid rate, structural transformation is occurring at a much slower pace. Nigeria is a country which has seen and keeps seeing exponential economic growth. And for those who can afford it, salaries are abundant. But how has this wealth positively impacted on the lives of the people? Youth unemployment is officially at 38%, although unofficial estimates put it at around 80%. Despite being Africa's lead crude oil exporter, it is also one of the continent's lead importer of refined petroleum. This is the trend which is replicated in many parts of the continent. Only 1 in 10 African workers are employed in modern formal farms with adequate technology. Currently, most of the continent is engaged in materials rather than value-added goods. Farmers in Africa are flocking to the cities. However, studies have shown that rural migrants do not end up in modern manufacturing industries but services such as retail trade and distribution. Sub-Saharan Africa's population is under the age of 25. The last 2 decades of economic growth have raised this young population's expectations of good jobs within diverse and vibrant economies without realizing the capacity to deliver them. In this regard, African political leaders may need to work to increase the rate of structural transformation and social inclusion.
So welcome back, and we have actually had a brief view of what the structural transformation really entails. So I guess you actually have some understanding of that. Okay, so we just move on to the next point. So we will have part of today's discussion. So thus, the agriculture can work in concert with other sectors to produce faster growth, reduce poverty, and sustain the environment. So this simply means that when we actually have a linked up subsectors of our economic structure, that's the agricultural sector linked up to both the industrial sector and the service sector, effectively, you can actually have a faster growth rate and also reduce poverty in turn and also sustain the environment as well. So the definition of what constitutes agricultural activities can vary from country to country. Broadly speaking, agriculture consists of crops, livestock, agroforestry, and aquaculture. So we would actually be looking into the main subsectors of Ghana's agriculture sector, but also note that for some economies, or let's say for some countries, it might differ. Okay, but no, but in this particular course, Econ 215, we are considering Ghana in context. So the first, so there are four main subsectors of the agricultural sector in Ghana, and we have the cocoa subsector, we have the crops and livestock subsector, we have the forestry and logging subsector, and we have the fisheries subsector. So the cocoa subsector consists of the production of cocoa beans by crop farmers and the processing of these into cocoa paste and butter for several processing companies. So normally in the cocoa subsector, it includes the production of cocoa beans. Okay, so the farm for cocoa and the beans are used for other processed forms. Okay, and normally they serve as a means to gain income through export. The next subsector we have is the crops and livestock subsector. Now, this includes other crops apart from cocoa, like cereals, starchy staples, and, and pulses and nuts and vegetables, and also livestock, okay, poultry, cattle, goats, and sheep as well. So we have another subsector also called the forestry and logging subsector. Now, this deals with the timber and other like things in terms of tree. So hearing the word agroforestry reflect like we're talking about planting trees, okay, planting trees. And so yeah, it says in the case of the forestry and logging subsector, the main activity items include the production of log and lumber, as well as sawn timber and timber products. So the last subsector we have is the fishery subsector, which consists of the production of fish and other fish products. So just here we have a table showing us the performance of the agricultural sector from 2006 to 2012. And we could see, following my cursor, we could see the first part that shows you the aggregate performance, okay, in terms of Ghana cedis, millions of Ghana cedis. And the next one is the value or the sorry the value in terms of the crops subsector, and we have the next one for the cocoa subsector. And we have the next one for the livestock subsector, the forestry and logging subsector, and the fishery subsector at last. So remember, the crop subsector and the livestock subsector are one subsector. Okay. So to continue with the slide, it says that this sector represents, that's the agriculture sector, represents one of the key foundations of the economy of Ghana. It has contributed to national economic development in several respects. So we want to see how the agriculture sector contributes to the development of this economy, of the economy of Ghana. So notably, it has played a major role in employment generation, foreign exchange, and incomes to a wide range of groups, largely because its share in GDP has been very large until recently. It still plays an important role despite the relative decline in the contribution of the sector to the GDP. So from this slide here, we are getting to understand the fact that though there had been a relative decline in the contribution of the agriculture sector to GDP, it still plays a wide support, okay, or it still contributes much, okay, or it still plays a large role, okay, in the development of Ghana's economy. So now we could see that one of the things it does is that it provides employment opportunities. Okay, now people have the opportunity to work okay, through this, and in this they get to work, and this also leads to the bringing down of the rate of poverty. Okay, and helps them to to get some income to increase the standard of living as well. And also we see that it serves as a means for foreign exchange too as well. So through the agriculture sector, we're able to get produce from this farmlands or the various subsectors of the agriculture sector that could be exported, okay, to generate some income into the country. And also, we could also see that it serves as a wide, sorry, it also serves as a way by which a wide range of groups okay, in Ghana's economy actually get some income. Now, the wide range of groups here meaning that there are different groups of, let's say, people getting benefits through the agriculture sector. For example, we have let's take some scenarios. Okay, for example, we have maybe the group of farmers, and they are farming, um, getting the raw produce, and they actually sell this and get some income. And let's say we have those working in the industry, another group, just for example, okay, and they are actually going to process this raw materials or this or this raw produce into either semi-useful end products or end products finally, or let's say completely end products. Okay, now they sell this and get some income to as well. And let's take another group like those retailers, maybe the service sector aspect, those who sell these goods. Okay, now you could see that there are different groups of people benefiting here. Now we could have people who are also imports and the importers in another country. Now they're also benefiting from our agriculture sector. Okay, they can also import and sell and get some benefits too as well. You get it. So now it provides income okay to a wide range of groups. So if you want to look at this, just have an overview of this. This is actually a graph okay, that shows the performance of the agricultural sector from 1960 to 2013 in terms of value added. So you can see that there was a peak in the year 20, within the year 1976 to 1978, just as we talked about when we begin the slides discussion. Okay, that like around the 1970s, we had much gains from the agriculture sector. So we could also see that it declines over time. Then even at sometimes it increased, but it kept on declining relatively. Okay, so in terms of its performance. So now this actually due to some challenges it faced. So we'll tackle these challenges too as well as we move on. So let's continue with the agriculture's contribution to the Ghanaian economy. So moreover, it is critical in the government's efforts at ensuring food security and achieving significant reductions in poverty. So though we were saying that even though Ghana's agriculture sector declines, okay, or has declined relatively over time now, it still plays a major role in contributing to the country's economic development. We're trying to also say that even despite the fact of the decline, okay, it is our target or it is our goal to ensure that through the agriculture sector, we're able to secure food in the country so that we don't have to import more foods from other countries, but we're able to produce what the country needs at a period of time and also able to at least secure for the future. You get it? And also, in other words, or not, okay, intend also to reduce poverty in the country. Just as we explained earlier on, that it provides jobs like employment generation. Okay, So it continues to say that there are other channels by which the agricultural sector can contribute to economic development, and these include the following. So let's look at some of the channels by which it can contribute to economic development, and we end this first section shortly. So because of its size in terms of the number of people employed, it plays an important role in the provision of factor inputs, notably labor, to industry and to other modern sectors. So we could see from here that the agriculture sector provides also the factor of inputs to other sectors. Okay, so when linked up, able to benefit from getting some factor inputs like labor, especially because you have a lot of people who are actually well skilled in terms of agriculture. Okay, you get it. That's in our economy. We go to the rural areas and even the urban areas too as well. Some are well skilled in terms of agriculture. They are trained and well skilled in it. So in case maybe in, let's say we have an industrial, let's say an industry that seeks to operate with agricultural let's say based activities. Okay, now they're able to get some labor. Okay, from this wide range of people that are working or that are actually based on farming and some other stuff. We get it. Also, the sector can also be a major source of capital for modern economic growth. Some have suggested that it is the main source of capital in the early stages of development, although this overstates the role of agriculture. So now the main thing we're talking about here is that it can also be a major source of capital for modern economic growth. Now, the only which could it be because in the previous time we saw it as being okay, that is in the old, like in the early stages of the economic growth, okay, or development, we saw it as being the major contributor to GDP. Okay, so now the only way it can still be the major source of capital for our economic growth is when we increase productivity in the agriculture sector. So doing so, we can actually maximize the benefits we get from it to the GDP or to our national income. So finally, we see that the agriculture sector with a large farming population can in some cases be an important market for the output of the modern urban sector. So actually what we're trying to see here is that the agricultural sector can actually contribute much to the output of the modern urban sector. Now we could see that in the modern urban sector, we have like different, let's say, operations in terms of a modernized system of the economy. Okay, now which are much with, and let's say, like related to the service sector and also the the industrial sector. So over some time now, we could see that when you trace the GSS, that is the Ghana Statistical Service, like its reports, when you trace it, you get to see that over a period of time, the industrial sector had actually been above the various, like above the other two sectors. And currently, it happens to be that the service sector seems to be on top. Okay, so shortly we'll look at the GSS reports and also get to understand this more. So for this particular point, we're trying to say that this farm produce, okay, like what the agricultural sector produces, okay, can indeed be an important market for the output of the modern urban sector. So let's say, for example, we have the market of goods and services and the market of the factors of production. Okay, so for the side of the market of factors of production, this is where we have these industrial sectors, for example, coming in to buy the inputs into their production so that they could get some output. Okay, now they would need much of this agricultural produce, okay, for like certain output in terms of furnitures or food products and some other stuffs. You get it. So when linked up, it could actually provide more benefits to them. Okay. So let's look at the GSS and look at how it actually works and see how it relates the agriculture sector to the service sector and also the industrial sector and see their performances, the differences over like a period of time now. We had known that the agriculture sector had been doing so much well than the others. Okay, but it declined over time. Okay, but let's look at the relation between the three of them to also from the GSS records. You could see, so just go straight to the main point of view. So now we could see the differences in the contribution to GDP, the agriculture sector here in this kind of purple or violet ink, and the industrial sector in the red, and the service sector in the blue. So we could see that over a while, we had the agriculture sector being the lowest in terms of contribution from 2013. Okay, it's contributed 21.7 as of 2013, and the industrial sector contributed 36.9, and the highest was actually the service sector contributing 41.4. So let's go to the next graph that we have here. So we could also see a difference here that as of 2017, we could see that the most performing was the industrial sector, followed by, that was a percentage of 15.7, that's to our GDP. And also we could see, okay, this is in terms of rate. Then we could also see for the agricultural sector was second in terms of the performance. Okay, that was 6.1%, and we could see that of the service sector is 0.3%. But over time, the service sector was improved, and as of 2019, it leads with 6.5%, and we have the agricultural sector and industrial sector being of the same percentage. So shortly, I'd like you to see something. So this is actually an information I got also the from my research, that the service sector happens to be the the largest contributor to our GDP currently. And we could see that from here it's saying that the service sector remains the largest sector. Its share of GDP decreased from 56.8%. Okay, to that. Okay, so just to show you the performance, okay, so that you get familiar with that. So shortly we would have to end here, then we would come on to another session again. Okay, so that is what we have from GSS. So kindly keep note of that. And shortly, I would like you to also have an overview of something we didn't do in this discussion, and it is also important. So just listen to the video that we're about to play and get to understand more about the agricultural zones in our country, Ghana, and also look at how we can improve the Ghana's economy or the growth rate through the agricultural sector. Okay.
Ghana, West Africa's second largest economy. Home to the largest man-made lake in the world, with 26 rivers and innumerable streams crisscrossing the country. Ghana has 3 agricultural zones that can grow a wide variety of industrial crops, food, fruits, vegetables. The northern savanna, large tracts of flat lands where rice, corn, and cotton grow. The forest zone, spreading southwards, great for coffee, cocoa, and oil palm. The coastal savanna, suitable for vegetables, fruits, maize, and cassava. When I think about Ghana, I think about adding value along the chain for cocoa with strategic targeted investments along the value chain. Ghana wants to be known not just as a premium cocoa producer, but also as the best chocolate maker. I think about mechanizing farming across the savanna, developing irrigation systems for all-year production. I think about growing industrial crops, covering all the arable land we have. I think about processing, developing improved packaging, and transporting quickly to reach external markets. I think about strengthening the distribution of improved seeds and agrochemicals. Think standards, training, and certification. building capacities for farm management and market-oriented enterprises. I think about finding innovative finance and ensure agricultural production. Think about it. We have a regional market of over 500 million people, and we can reach the world very quickly. Think Ghana. Make it happen.